Okay, in this video, I'm going to go through PAL, which is Program Aided Language Models. I'm going to go quickly through the paper and some of the key points in the paper and their website. And then I'm going to show you the code for implementing and using this in LangChain. So this paper comes out of CMU, which has a very good NLP team there. And these are the authors, number of authors that have worked on it. Uh, this really is an interesting paper in that it's kind of going along with this new theme of that rather than just train up models to get bigger and to get better at things, you can also look at using in context learning and using few shot prompting to basically manipulate these models to do something with a tool, with an external tool that's outside of the actual language model. So what a lot of this is doing is used for math. Now, math has been an issue for language models for a long time, that they've had problems with doing even simple things like addition or multiplication with large numbers. I and that a lot of that has to do with just the way that they're trained. So if you think about it, they will learn a lot of things with small numbers in certain scenarios because they see that a lot in their training data. But they don't really learn sort of the logic of how to do multiplication or division or even multiple things all in the same equation. So what this basically proposes is that rather than just export out the answer, why don't we export out a Python program? And this Python program can then be used to actually calculate the answer. So it can be run with Python read, evaluate, print loop, and then that can be used to basically give us the answer. So it's interesting here that they're using the codex model. So they've found that this works better than the actual code models, which makes sense because they're trying to generate code here. And the goal here is to basically offload a solution to a Python interpreter, right? This is what they're doing. So if you look at the idea here of, what's been done in the past, the chain of thought stuff was really interesting when that came out last year. And the idea there was just by asking the language model to basically give us step-by-step thinking for it, could it basically give us the answer? And it turned out that this worked at a certain amount of time, certainly much better than just asking for the answer. So you would often see things like, let's think about this step by step. A lot of those things are prompting for chain of thought. Whereas what this is doing here is basically getting the model to output a set of variables, which we can then use. So we can basically take this Rogers tennis balls, right? And this tennis balls equals 5. This is just like a Python thing. 2 cans of 3 tennis balls each. So this is going to be the bought balls is 2 times 3. And then the answer is going to be the tennis balls plus bought balls. So you can see that doing these things like this allows the Python interpreter to actually do the math part. The language model never has to do the math part. It's just basically doing it's just creating the function that then is going to be run in Python itself. So the paper is very interesting. I encourage you to go and have a look at it. They focus on certain types of math and they focus on certain types of questions. You'll see that they use this M8K benchmark, which I'm pretty sure stands for Grade School Math 8K. And these are basically math word problems. And this is one of the data sets. There's another one, GSM Hard, which they use for this. And you'll see that going through this, it talks a little bit about how they craft prompts for this, how they set those prompts up to basically then export out or to predict out a Python function. So if comparing to the baselines, this does far better. So there's some really nice implementation points in here of showing us that, okay, that they're using greedy decoding with a language model with a temperature of 0, and they're using this Codex Code DaVinci 2 model. So you'll see when we get to the actual code part, we're going to use the same model that they're using in the actual paper. Let's have a look at the website. So they have this nice website, and I'll put the links in the description for all of this. And you can see that not only does this do well, but when it's compared to the other forms of doing this kind of thing, it does, very well. You can see just direct prompting doesn't do very well at all. The chain of thought prompting, we see quite a big jump for a lot of these. And then the PAL sees an even bigger jump for a lot of these. So these are various data sets that they've tested on. The GSM 8K is the one I've just been talking about, and the GSM hard. You can see really big jumps on some of these. So GSM 8K was one that people used a lot for comparing big models. You can see that just by adding this, because we're taking the heavy lifting out of the model and putting that into the actual code and the functions that we're using. All right, so some sample outputs. They've got a bunch of them here that you can look at, which will show you the question, will show you the chain of thought, how the chain of thought handles this, and then it will show you how it's turning it into a Python function so that you can see this. So I'll show you in the code that you might want to actually sometimes change the prompts. So this could be where you could get more examples to use in prompts for this. So for using the in-context learning, using some of these, you could actually come through and look for the kind of thing that you particularly want to do. So they've got a whole bunch of sort of standard ones in here. They've got the GSM 8K hard. So this is often a lot more things to do with like floats, some different types of questions that you're going to see. We've got the colored objects questions. So in LangChain, it actually has a colored objects prompt. So it has its own colored objects PAL chain. So you'll see that in the code in a second. And then we've got things like date understanding. So the LangChain ones don't seem to do that well with this. So this is something that I would look at maybe adding as a prompt or something to the work you're going to do in LangChain to see, okay, how does it do with these kind of things? Another one that it perhaps doesn't do as well is these repeat copy things. So where you're asking it to do a specific task, and you'll see we'll go through some of these in the code. So have a look at the paper. The researchers have done a really good job here. It's a pretty easy paper to read and to see what's going on. And it allows you to understand, okay, what's actually going on in the code, so that if you want to change some of this or you want to experiment with this for other things, with exporting Python functions, you would be able to do this kind of thing. All right, let's jump into the code. Okay, so we've gone through the paper. Let's jump in and have a look at the code. So it turns out that LangChain has a PAL tool in there, or a PAL chain rather, in there that we can use. So this is basically bringing it in. It's quite simple for bringing this in. And you'll notice that we're not using the normal DaVinci 3 model or a ChatGPT model. We're actually using one of the code models for this. So this is to make it like the paper as we go through this. So I've put up some examples that you can play with here. I will look at some from the paper and some from some other papers to see how they work. And then I'll show you some examples of things that don't work as well. So setting up the chain is pretty simple. There are 3 different sort of versions of it. The main one we're going to start out with is the from math prompt, and then I'll show you the one for colors and another one for step-by-step stuff as well. Okay, we've brought this in. We're doing verbose equals true so that we can see what's actually going on and stuff as we go through this. So you can see here we've got, this is from one of the FLAN papers from memory. It's a very simple sort of thing, and the big models can do this straight out, right? And a lot of times they will do it with the chain of thought prompt to get them to be better at this. But certainly smaller models and even some of the bigger FLAN T5 models struggle at this kind of thing. So you can see here we've got the cafeteria had 23 apples. If they used 20 for lunch and bought 6 more, how many apples do they have? And sure enough, we can see that when we run this, pass this question into the PAL chain and run it, we can see that this is actually converted what we've got here and extracted the variables, right? So the initial apples is 23, apples used, apples bought, and then constructed a very simple math equation for this. And it's wrapping it all in Python and then running that Python, so that we can see the final output is going to be 9, right? Which 23 minus 20 plus 6 equals 9. And we can see here that if we look at this is the question that I put in. This is the actual template that we're doing here. Like I always say, you should look at the templates yourself so that you can learn from them. Looking at this, it's a bit hard to see. So what I'm going to do is just copy this over and we'll just post it in here so that we can actually read the full template. So for a start, you'll notice that the template's quite long. And this sort of fits with often up here, we will set the large language model to be 512 tokens for this, because we're going to have a long prompt that we're putting into this. Right? And definitely using the PAL will use a decent amount of tokens. So you can see that what we're doing here is the in-context learning. We're basically just giving it examples of a question. Olivia has $23. She bought 5 bagels for $3. How much money does she have left? And then we're giving it the Python function that it should generate, right? So that this would be a solution in Python, and it should generate the output. And it should always make the variables related to the sort of the actual words in the problem. And we can see that, okay, sure enough, it's gone through, it's done that. Now notice we're not giving it the answer, because we're going to take this and we're going to run this actually in Python. So we don't want the language model to give us the answer. We just want the language model to give us the Python function, which we can then basically run. So we've got one example there. Got another, and this is one of the big things that I want you to take away from this, is just how many examples they're giving in the in-context learning here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So there are 8 examples for this to learn from before it starts doing it. And then we just pass in the question that we've got, and we're going to tell it solution in Python, and then it's going to generate out a function, which we will then take and run. So you can look at this and you'll notice that it initializes the variables with variable names that relate to the problem. It should do the math in there. Now you'll see that most of the math in this particular example is reasonably simple. And this could be the reason why it'll get some wrong that I'll show you later on. So you could actually even mess with this prompt a little bit more if you were going to do some examples around time or some examples around other things. So let's go on. That's the actual prompt. If we jump in and look at some of the examples from the data sets used in the paper. So remember the GSM-8K, this is grade school math questions. And we can see that here we've got a question, it's running it, and it's working. It's generating a Python function with variables that match the question. It's putting each of them in the right place, and then it's exporting, then running that and giving us the answer out. So we can see we've got multiple ones. And I encourage you to go through and play with the Colab yourself and try changing these up and playing with it. I've taken some of these from the page with the paper on it that we looked at a little bit before. So you can see some of these examples are from here, where we've got the GSM-8K outputs. We've got various other outputs that we can look at in there. And you can see that if you go through, it can do basically integer math, it can do float math, it can do a variety of different things. One of the kind of examples that I find very interesting are these final examples of repeat copy. So you'll see this is where the question will be something along the lines of asking it to do something with language. So in this one, say the letters of the alphabet in capital letters, but only the odd ones. All right. Another one is the repeat cheese 7 times, every third say whiz. So cheese, cheese, whiz, cheese, cheese, whiz, cheese. Okay, so if we look at running this in LangChain, it doesn't do quite a great job. We're getting cheese. We've got no spaces in there, right? But okay, let's forgive that. We've got lots of cheeses and then we've got the whizzes right at the end. So it's probably getting this wrong because there's none of these examples in the actual prompt. So you could actually go and change the prompt. And maybe we look at doing, that in a future video or something. If people are interested, please comment and let me know. But the one about the letters, it does get right. So you can see here that, okay, say the letters of the alphabet in capital letters, but only the odd ones. These are the answers from the paper. And sure enough, it gets it right. Another site that I thought would be interesting is actually just to take a site that's made for children to learn this stuff. And this has a whole bunch of different questions. So you can put these in there and it tells you actually sort of what grade they are. And goes, I think, from 3rd grade up to 8th grade. And some of them are very easy, but then some of them do become challenging. So I've put a bunch of those in there that you could play around with and see which ones that it gets. And it gets most of them right. This is a kind of interesting one. So interpreting, basically, we want to see, okay, can it work out the remainder when we're actually doing division? What's left over? And you can see, sure enough, it does the division and then it does the remainder. So it's using the modulo there to basically work out the the remainder for this. Mixed operations, doing multiple things and stuff like that. It seems to do pretty well with those. Some things related to percentages, right? And this one is actually a little bit more like reasoning, where it's asking it to do things. And then you have to say, okay, which group is bigger? And you can see it's written a whole bunch of conditional logic in the function here to work this out. So that these are worth having a play with. And you could think about where you could use these in various places. And then we get some failures. It doesn't do very well with time. So this is basically, if I wake up at 7 a.m. and it takes an hour and a half to get ready and walk to school, what time will I get to school? Obviously, the answer here would be 8:30, but it says at 8. So it looks like it's getting some things wrong in there. And I think it's basically, again, I think this is more because there's nothing like this in the prompt. And so maybe you could improve this by playing around with the prompt. Another one was ratios that it seemed to get wrong. So this one, it's looking to get a ratio of where the difference between these, I'll let you go through and play with this and read it yourself, is 12. And clearly the difference between 21 and 9 would be 12, but 21 and minus 9, it hasn't done a great job there. Okay, the colored objects. You can see this is the second kind of palchain in LangChain. So this is specifically for working with colored stuff. And I've played around with these a little bit. So you can see that, okay, on the desk, 2 blue booklets, 2 purple booklets, 1 purple hat, and 2 yellow pairs of sunglasses. If I remove all pairs of sunglasses, how many purple items do I have remain? So we would expect that we're going to see 2 and 3 here. So it's interesting to see the logic of how it does it. It basically makes a list. It adds in versions of these lists. Right, so we can see that we've got 2 for those ones. We've got 1 for our purple hat. And then it goes and removes all the sunglasses in there. And then it counts the number of purple things. And it gives us the right answer there. So this one, I'm not sure exactly what you would use it for. But my guess is that maybe there are certain times when colors are going to be really important to things. You could probably play around with this prompt to make it something like the number of widgets. So if you were building some kind of chatbot or something, it was doing maybe some sort of like a counting task where people say, all right, we had 15 people buy widget A, 27 by widget B, 36 by widget C, 7 people returned widget A, 3 people returned widget B, this kind of thing. You could probably change this prompt to fit your very specific example, so that it would get the math right for something like that. And the final one is this idea of this immediate steps idea. What this will basically do is it will just break down what it was doing into the different steps so that we can see this. So if we look at the immediate steps, and what I've done here is basically just copy the output here of the immediate steps, we can see that it's actually broken it down in parts of the function. So if you were getting something wrong, you could come in here and actually do a run through with the breakdown of the immediate steps, and then use that to determine, okay, should I try and adjust the prompt or something like this? So it's not, this PAL thing is not perfect. It won't work all the time, but it's amazing that it works as much as it does. It certainly in the past, before this paper, people were just generally relying on things like chain of thought and just trying to expect the large language model to return this. So it's a really cool idea. And I think it's this idea we're going to see used a lot more in the future, of where people use a Python function to basically do something. And then you're getting the language model just to write the Python function based on a particular natural language query kind of thing. So anyway, hopefully this was useful to you. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I will always try and go through and answer comments. If this is useful to you, please click subscribe and let me know what kind of videos you would like to see going forward. All right. Thanks for watching.